City of Stevens Point Finance Committee meeting, recorded April 14, 2025.
I'll call a meeting to order of our Finance Committee at 6:23. Marcy, could you take roll, please?
Christensen.
Here.
Morrow.
Here.
Shuda.
Here.
Keemer. Here. Broderick. Here.
All right. We have everyone here. We're set and ready to go. Item number 2 on our agenda is the approval of funding for the purchase of new election tabulators. Our wonderful city clerk will be sharing her wisdom.
I have a memo and communication with election and licensing systems software in your packet. We currently have 12 machines, 11 for the polling, one for each of the 11 polling locations, and then we do have one backup machine. The difference, there's only 2 options, either the new DS300s, which they're hoping to have certified by the end of this year, so they wouldn't take, obviously we don't have any more elections for this year, so they take effect for 2026, or purchase used equipment. The only difference is $850 per machine versus a new one and used. So personally, I think the purchasing of the new machines is your best option. If you have any questions, you can let me know.
Committee, any questions of our clerk while she's still up? If not, a motion to be in.
I'll move approval. I did notice in the clerk's communication that she shared that he mentions that the ones that we have, the 2S200s, are some of the oldest he's aware of that are still in use. So good job taking care of them for 10, 15 years. And
Yep.
I'm happy to get newer machines.
Definitely got a good use out of them. All right, so we have a motion by Keemer. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Broderick. Any comments or questions from the committee? Any from the public? Hearing none, all in favor of approving that request signify by saying aye.
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 And opposed would be no. And that passes unanimously. Item number 3 on our agenda. Oh, come on, come down. There we go. Approval of acceptance of a community foundation grant for the fire department. Chief, you want to give us a quick background on that, please?
Sure.
So as many of you know, we have technical rescue that falls under the city fire department, and one of those technical rescue aspects is water rescue. And with water rescue, we, after going on another rescue last year that turned into a recovery, we realized that when we are out working with anglers while they are out fishing, they have better technology than we do as emergency services. And when those calls come in and we need to be able to respond and address situations appropriately, one of the things we looked at improving on was our technology when it came to side scan sonar and live scope abilities on our water rescue craft. Members of our department, Lieutenant Schultz, Lieutenant Zander, and MPO Fleissner put together a grant and submitted it to the Community Foundation of Central Wisconsin. We were successfully awarded the grant on behalf of the Arthur Hines Charitable Fund for a total of $2,600 and the Wellness Mission Fund of Portage County for a total of $2,400, totaling $5,000 towards this new technology. So we are looking to accept that grant, and with that, put that towards our technical rescue updates for this year, and one of those being the purchase of that equipment for water rescue.
Okay, thank you. Any questions by the committee for the chief?
How much would the total cost of the equipment you have? I mean, how much would the cost be for the equipment that you need?
The total cost is going to be $10,000, and what we did is with the grant, it's just under $10,000, and so the $5,000 from the grant, and then the rest of it's going to be taken out of capital technical rescue for the purchase of the rest of the equipment. So we were going to purchase it either way out of technical rescue. This just allows with the grant to be able to facilitate some other equipment that was needed for technical rescue as well this year in 2025.
Thank you, Chief. Any other questions? Not a motion would be in order?
So moved.
Moved by Alder Schuda. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Alder Keemer. Any other comments or questions from the committee? Any from the public? Hearing none, we will take a vote. All in favor of approving that Community Foundation grant for the fire department would signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, and opposed would be no. And that passes unanimously. Item number 4, approval of the agreement for fire department services with the Village of Park Ridge, and we just happen to have somebody here that could speak to that. Chief, can you give us some information, please?
Sure. So we have had an agreement between the Village of Park Ridge and the City of Stevens Point Fire Department for EMR responses into the village for many decades. That has been an agreement that has been in place and updated every 5 years and has been a 5-year contract just reoccurring. Then we also, this is going to be our second long-term contract on fire suppression services offered to the Village of Park Ridge. And what I tried to do is coordinate the contracts. So the one contract, the EMS contract, for some reason, long before I was even on the department, this contract was in place. Always expired May 31st and reoccurred the starting of the next contract June 1st. And with the extension and now with fire services, I tried to make them parallel. So I made the last contract expire at the end of May, just like this EMS contract would. Now we're going to fast forward and we're going to basically make these 4.5-year contracts, what the Village of Park Ridge has agreed to and the PFC, when we met with them, has agreed to. The 4.5-year contract would take us out till December 31st of 2029, and then the plan that would be in place would be to just update both of these contracts on 5-year rotations, 2030 to 35, 35 to 40, and so on as needed. And we would look at starting negotiations in September the prior year to make sure we had a facilitated contract in place by the time they expired. The big thing I'd like to point out in your packet is with the fire suppression agreement, we do have updated numbers. Corey and I sat down and worked through those numbers, and it is a blended formula, and it is the same formula that we've used in past contracts with them. And the big change for the Village of Park Ridge was this past year when we went to referendum within the city and our operating budget increased. The Village of Park Ridge did not see that increase initially in 2025 when that took place starting 1/1 of this year. It will, though, however, you will see the calculation change and the increase to go into effect 1/1 of 26. We thought that we had a contract through half of 2025 and they had a budget already in place for us. There was no need to change that agreed upon amount that they had budgeted. But in 2026, they will also pay their portion of that increase for staffing. So that calculation has been put in there as the blended formula, 50% per capita, 50% per value. So other than that, a majority of the language is going to stay the same, and along with a majority of the language in the EMR contract, just some updated dates. Any questions with either one?
Any questions? Hearing no questions,
So moved.
we have a motion by Alder
Second.
Schuda to approve it and a second by Alder Morrow. Any questions or comments from the public? Hearing none, we'll take our vote. All in favor of approval of that agreement for fire department services with the Village of Park Ridge would signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and opposed would be no. Chief, you want to speak on EMS as well? That's our next agenda item. It's basically same song, second verse.
So actually, I apologize, I kind of put them together.
Yeah, that's fine.
But if there are any questions with the EMS contract, I'd be more than willing to answer them. We've had this contract in place for decades. It's updated every 5 years. We've changed some dates to parallel the fire services contract, like I had said. And the fire department is comfortable with the numbers along with the comptroller's office.
And I do remember your goal was to get them in sync with each other as well, so.
Correct.
This will give us that opportunity to do that. Is there any questions from the committee on the EMS specifically? Otherwise, a motion to approve item number 5 would be in order.
Move to approve.
Move to approve by Alder Broderick,
I'll second.
and a second by Alder Keemer. Any questions or comments from the public?
I guess I do have a quick question,
Sure.
Chair. So when Park Ridge pays these sums, $1,500 for EMS, I assume they go to the comptroller's office, and then from there, are they transferred to you, or like, just how does that kind of payment, is it fairly complicated?
Well, so right now, that revenue is budgeted in the general fund.
Okay.
So, and then the expenses of the fire department also come out of the general fund.
Okay.
But right now, we haven't really segregated that portion for the fire department. One of the things that we did do is when we brought on Park Ridge for full fire service, we were able to use that money to add a position in the fire department. So, I would say they have benefited from having the relationship with Park Ridge, but right now, basically the revenues just go into the general fund,
Okay.
and then the expenditures for the fire department come out of the general fund.
Okay, thank you.
And it is 4 equal quarterly payments on the fire suppression contract. So it's not once a year they're paying it.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Any comments or questions from the public? Hearing none, I will take our vote. All in favor of approving the agreement for the EMS services for the Village of Park Ridge would signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, and opposed would be no. And that passes unanimously. Brings us down to item number 6 on our agenda, approval of amendments to the Downtown Facade Improvement Grant Program. Director?
Am I okay to stay here?
Absolutely.
Awesome. So Adam Kuhn put together a very nice memo in your packets, but to run over the highlights, there were recommendations made by the Historic Preservation Commission to the Downtown Facade Improvement Grant that would expand financial assistance for historic properties and maximize the usage of this facade improvement program. Some of the recommendations being made include permitting door and window improvements or replacements as a standalone item. Currently, they need to be coupled with a bigger project. Giving priority to projects that receive rehabilitation tax credits through the state. Expanding the required completion timeline from 12 to 18 months. And then also allowing some of the minor projects to be approved by staff and the chair instead of the commission. Major projects would still be approved by the commission. So just trying to cut through the red tape. Make some of these easy projects go by a little faster. So staff would be recommending the changes as presented in the memo.
Any questions for the director?
So moved.
We have a motion to approve by Alder Schuta. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Alder Keemer. I am a member of the Historic Preservation Commission as well, and these were something we worked through, and we're just trying to make it. It's a good program, but we're just trying to make it available to more people, and I think what Adam came up with is going to ease the ability to utilize it. We did try to, on the minor things, try to be able to streamline things a little bit. So we did include that for the minor projects, the Historic Preservation Chair and Adam, with those two combined, could just approve those, and those could move along rapidly. A lot of times, if you have a contractor, you're able to get a hold of someone, you want to be able to move quickly. So hopefully that will be beneficial to all. Any comments or questions from the public? Hearing none. All in favor of approving that amendment to the Downtown Facade Improvement Grant Program would signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and opposed would be no. And that passes unanimously. Gets us to number 7, the approval of an agricultural lease agreement with Blue Top Farms. Director?
Thank you very much. So similar to the agreement that was in your packets for the last meeting, this is a farming and harvesting lease with Blue Top Farms. The prior one was with Macadlo, Bernard Macadlo. So Blue Top is requesting the ability to lease approximately 68 acres of land down in the East Park Commerce Center. At $125 an acre, that would come out to approximately $8,500. That would come into the city for that lease. So staff would be recommending approval of that farming lease, as we do not currently have any developers on the hook for that property. So,
Okay. Any questions of the director from the committee? If not, a motion to approve would be in order.
So moved.
We have a motion to approve by Alder Morrow. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Alder Broderick. Any comments or questions from any thoughts that want to be shared by the committee? And from the public? Hearing none, we'll vote on that. All in favor of approving that agricultural lease agreement would signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and opposed would be no. And that passes. Item number 8, approval of setting the minimum offer for Business 51 real estate. I'm guessing Director Badun is going to share some wisdom.
I'm not sure I have much wisdom. It's a really short memo. Hopefully you had an opportunity to read it. But yeah, just as I state in there, we just need to otherwise decide what that minimum offer is going to be as we begin the real estate acquisition, to one, of course, be fair to whomever we're making those offers to. Some of these are small enough, trying to really determine a value, can be kind of questionable and arbitrary to some extent, as far as like what it's actually valued at, small parcels, versus what someone may actually want to actually take the time to engage. And so that's really the question at hand is, we've got a limited time to get some of the real estate, and what do we want to do with that? And again, we can set this wherever we want to. WISDOT has moved theirs up to $500. The subconsultant AECOM that we're working with as our consultant, right-of-way professionals, also recommended $500 as the minimum offer, just because in both their opinions, it helps speed up the process, gets people's attention. Using lesser amounts, some $200, $250 seems to kind of drag out the process.
Okay. Any questions for the director from the committee?
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve from Alder Keemer. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Schuda. Any questions for or thoughts that the committee wants to share? How about from our public? Any ideas? Hearing none, we'll take a vote on that. All in favor of setting the minimum offer amount for the Business 51 real estate as recommended would signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and opposed would be no. And that passes unanimously. Approval of claims paid.
Yeah, so just a couple of claims. We had a payment for the Buchholz lighting project, so in that actually a small amount was budgeted in capital, but mainly that's privately raised dollars. So it's nice to see that for the parks we're able to raise a lot of that money privately. And then also we had our payment for our 2024 animal control contract with which is through the county, but it's provided by the Humane Society. So it's not a donation. They actually provide a service in exchange in terms of providing animal control.
Okay. Committee, any items that you noted that you'd like him to comment on? I would like just to remind you, too, if you do see something out of the ordinary, it's always good to give Corey a jingle ahead of time. He's always more than willing to share details on any of those. A motion to approve would be in order.
So moved.
We have a motion to approve by Alder Morrow. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Shuda. Any comments from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving our claims paid would signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and opposed would be no. That passes unanimously. Item number 10 will be a motion to adjourn into closed session. It's at approximately 6:40, and we're at 6:43, so we did pretty well. Deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, the investment of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. So that's from our 19 statutes, 19.85, parenth 1, parenth E. We will be discussing establishing guidelines for the negotiation of real estate acquisition for the Business 51 project. We need a motion to go into closed session.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion by Alder Shuda. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Alder Broderick. This needs to be a roll call, right?
Correct, yep. Doesn't need to be a roll call.
Please call the roll.
Morrow.
Aye.
Shuda.
Aye.
Keemer.
Aye.
Broderick.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye. And so we will be going into closed session at 6:44. Is there a motion to approve that process as described by the director?
I'll move approval.
We have moved to approve by Alder Keemer. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Morrow. Comments, questions? Okay. All in favor of approving those guidelines for the negotiations for a real estate acquisition for the Business 51 project would signify by saying aye.
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 And opposed would be no, and we are adjourned at 7:04.